Welcome back, MTG Joe here. Today we're doing the weekly metagame breakdown for the standard best of one format. If you're looking for the best performing, highest win rate decks in standard best of one up to Mythic rank, this will be the video for you. We're going to look at Untapped GG data, a companion tool that tracks user win rates to see what decks are winning. Because towards the end of the month, we're going to predominantly focus just on the Mythic rank. These decks will be the highest in terms of win rate for tracked users. We'll look at a couple Diamond rank decks as well. Just they haven't either been played enough in Mythic, but these are viable decks as well, I think. And it offers a little bit more diversity in terms of it. So all the deck lists will be in the video description. You can find them there. You can find Untapped GG if you want to track your win rates, see some stats as well. So that's all there for your consumption purposes. And the codes that I was giving away for free Untapped Premium for the giveaway from last week, I pinged people in the comments, so with instructions to reach out to me. So those are out. So just keep a look at your notifications. If you happen to get one from me, just shoot me an email. So let's jump into it. In terms of play rate, Mono White Aggro is the most played at about 10%. We have Simic Aggro at 6%. Jeskai Artifacts is about 6%. It's a stock list. It's not going to be included today. The win rate's at like 52% or 53%. It's below the 55 that I usually look at. Dimir Mill at 5%. Green Stompy at 5%. We have the Reanimator Cavero decks at 5%. Azorius Control at 4%. And then Mono Black Demons at 3%. Demons is another deck. You can look at any of the past videos. The deck list is exactly the same. It's sub 55%, so we're not going to look at it today. So 190,000 games played from Diamond to Mythic. And then from Mythic rank, we have 77,000 games played at the Mythic rank ladder for the last week. So with the format being fairly like it's creatures versus control, pretty much, a lot of the creature decks don't interact as much. So having this mono green landfall deck kind of come up again makes a little bit of sense, given that a lot of what they're trying to do is just like dump a bunch of creatures to the board. You can go over the top with things like Tifa, which doubles its power. You have Mossborn Hydra. So this deck cares about putting lands into play. It's really base green with the World Soul's Rage as the splash. You have the fetch lands in Terramorphic Expanse, Fabled Passage, and Escape Tunnel that can find you your red source. But the core of the deck is trying to get as many landfall triggers as possible, putting counters on your creatures. Ice Till lets you rebuy your lands from your graveyard. Traveling Chocobo off the top of your deck. Bill gets to put counters on stuff. And then you have protection in Snakeskin Veil. So Baby Chocobo, Tifa, and then Mossborn Hydra naturally increase their power, and then Bill can distribute counters as well as double counters on creatures. We have Gruul Fling, really Gruul Fling, 63%. So red cards are back, baby. I just got to splash another color. So this deck here is looking to, it's basically a leyline list, leyline deck. Make a creature very big and then throw it at your opponent with Callous Sellsword. We have Firebending Student, which is a new card, 2 mana, 1/2 prowess, and Firebending X, where X is its power. So Firebending, how it works is when you attack, you get to add red mana to your mana pool equal to Firebending Student's power. The condition is you have to spend it basically during the combat step. So you have to use things at instant speed. So it works out nicely with things like Turn Inside Out. Bulk Up's a big one here since you could also flash it back from the graveyard. You have Hired Claw's ability as another effect. So not a huge amount in terms of instant speed. We're just seeing the Turn Inside Out as the only one drop that can be cast off it, or the Mana Sink, as well as Bulk Up. Demonic Ruckus is a card that gives evasion, trample. You can plot, kind of set up a big turn with like Slick Shots, Overprotect, and Royal Treatment as protection effects. And then Hemiosymbic Might is, you can pump this and then it distributes its power to another creature as well, which is kind of cool. Emberheart for some card advantage and prowess, and then, like I said, the Fling at your opponent. Mono White Aggro, 60%, 320 games. So this is a pretty budgety, aggressive deck. So it's kind of an Auras package. You are using basically cheap creatures. Optimistic Scavenger gets counters whenever an enchantment enters. You have Slumbering Keep Guard, 1 mana whenever an enchantment enters. Scry 1, and then basically, it's a mana sink, 3 mana, gets +1/1 until end of turn for each enchantment you control. So, surprise, huge amount of damage. Veteran Survivor, good rate, 1 mana, 2/1. That can eventually eat away at your opponent's graveyard and get bigger and get some protection. You have the most helpful Weaver, just gives you another creature, puts a counter, and then can gain double strike on the turn. The Wonder Weave Aerialist is one that, as long as it's modified, it gets flying, so evasion, and has some built-in protection with ward. Then your Ethereal Armor scales its power, Shard Mage for protection, Seam Rip as removal, Feather Flight for evasion and cycling, and Sheltered by Ghost as removal. You can probably play the new Avatar land, the white one, the Air Temple one. Just put counters on your stuff just as a mana sink if needed. So we have Dimir Mill, 59%. So this deck here is trying to win. It's kind of a pseudo 2-card combo, Singularity, Rupture. It's a sweeper that mills half their library, and then you exhaust Riverturn Monument that takes out the other half of their library. With Ojar, Pakpatik Deepest Epoch. That is something that's fun to say. Whenever you cast an instant spell from your hand, it gains Rebound. And then when it dies, return to the battlefield transformed with 3 time counters on it. So this card here, you can remove it, and then you can transform it if there's no time counter. So it's basically just, it rebuys your instant speed stuff, gives you some effects, and if it sweeps it, eventually comes back as well. Unfortunately, it's instant speed only. I was thinking initially that you can double up Singularity and just mill them a lot more, but that's not the case. Deadly Cover-Up is more sweepers, just the Dimir Control deck. We're also seeing Day of the Black Sun. Each creature with mana value X or less loses all abilities till on the turn, and then you destroy those creatures. Gets around Indestructible, for example. So this deck is playing 11 Wraths, 8 pieces of card advantage, and then just some hand hate and some disruption elements. We also have Anga Quella, basically one of the cool land cycles, just cares about having a basic, and then it lets you draw a discard. So say, for example, you're playing against Control and you have a handful of sweepers, you can just loot through it and get your cards that actually matter. We have Orzhov, they're calling it Orzhov Bats, but it's really Orzhov Auras at 58%. So this deck here, similar to the mono white deck, but you're using black cards for things like Spiteful Hexmage, comes in, gives you an enchantment. Normally it's kind of a downside, but if you put it on a 1/1, it doesn't really matter. It also counts as just another enchantment entering. Dark Confidant gives you some card advantage. Deep Cavern Bat for hand hate. Lord Skitter's Blessing, it enters, you create a Wicked roll, and then at the beginning of your draw step, if you control an enchanted creature, you lose a life and draw an extra card. So between that and Dark Confidant, it's kind of a card draw engine. Nowhere to Run is additional removal to Sheltered by Ghost, and Spellbook Vendor can put more enchantments on your combat step. We have Simic Kona. This one's at 57%, so pretty stock list. We won't go too much into detail, but for those unfamiliar, you use Kona with the tap lines, the planet lines. Planet lines tap Kona, so you don't have to attack for it. It then puts into play Omniscience. With Omniscience, you basically draw through your deck using stock ups, consult the star charts. You have Roiling Dragonstorm. You also have Lost in the Maze that can protect your Kona, and also is a way to tap it with the stun counter. And eventually what you're trying to do is dig to a point where you can start looping Roiling Dragonstorms with Meringue River Regents, targeting the Meringues each time. You'll eventually draw into Extinguisher Battleship, which can be played in the loop of Meringue River Regents to sweep your opponent's board and eventually blow up all their lands. You'll eventually lead to a board of just some Meringues in play with Counterspell backup, and then you kill your opponent on the next combat step. We have Azorius Control at 57%. Similar to Dimir, we have Sweepers in Ultima, Day of Judgment, and Pinnacle Starcage. Ultima ends the turn, so against any of the Earthbended lands from like Cub, for example, it will just make them go away forever, where the other cases, they come back into play. We have Spirit Water Revival, 3 mana sorcery. It has an additional cost. You can pay 8. So if you just pay for 3, it's a 3 mana draw 2. If the additional spell was, or if the additional Waterbend, or 6 mana, or tap artifacts creatures, you shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw 7 cards, and you have no maximum hand size for the end of the turn. Consult, stock up's pretty stock here. Authority for the aggressive deck, Soul Guide Lantern for graveyard hate, along with Rest in Peace. 3 steps, No More Lies, negate, cheap counters, and then we have a 1 Shitong as a way to just kind of flash in if your opponent is searching their library for anything, but it's just a good mana sink, kind of a flash Hydrate Crisis, flash in your win condition, draw some cards, and then Flying Vigilance is good to put pressure while keeping back a blocker if needed. We have Izzet Prowess as a duelist. So this deck here is a looting deck. So what it's looking to do is just draw, discard. We see Tiger Seal in here, Marauding Mako. So kind of the evolution of what was, the VV decks, or like the Profs deck. So drawing, discarding. If you target your opponent's stuff with Duelist, you loot. Feared loots. Winter Night Story loots. Always you can draw multiple cards per turn for Tiger Seal to untap. Put some pressure on your opponent. You have the Boomerang Basics with Storm Chaser's Talent, which is a really strong loop. If you could get enough mana, you basically basics back your Storm Chaser's Talent, play your Storm Chaser's Talent, level it to get your Boomerang Basics, then reset your Storm Chaser's Talent over and over, drawing you a bunch of cards in that case. You have Frostcliff Siege, which if you name Temur, gives your creatures haste and trample. That allows you for 2 mana to basically warp in Riddler and then attack right away with it, which is really strong. Roaring Furnace is removal that you can also pick up with the basics, so you get to draw another card and reset your removal, which is really strong. And then we have Soka in here. Enters, discard up to 2, draw that many cards. Whenever you cast an artifact or lesson, you put a 1 counter on Soka. This particular version just has the lessons in Boomerang Basics. We have Dimir Control. This one's at 50, we'll call it 55%. So slightly different build of Control. We do have some dragons in here on the top end. Then we have the Caustic Exhales, cheap removal to the Soul Stones, Terminus of Return, help you ramp. It eventually can be a reanimation effect. So you can kind of keep bringing it back. You have the Dispelling Exhales because of the Dragon package. Interesting to only see 1 Consult and then 4 stock-ups. Probably play more Consults. They're very good in these types of Draw Ghost decks. And then you have the Rise of Sozin. It's a sweeper that can then surgical extraction your opponent, and then it flips and gives you a nice threat on the other side. 1 Ugin and 1 Liliana on the top end as well. Simic Aggro, just a shade under 55%. So these decks here, I was trying it out in like the metagame challenge. They're very powerful if left unchecked. You dump your hand very quickly and it can generate huge amounts of power. It does sometimes feel a little susceptible, obviously, to sweepers. You are at times reliant on the top of your deck. You're not really drawing cards that much in this particular build, but the core of the deck is using mana dorks. You have Badgermole Cup to animate lands and then have these dorks tap for extra mana. You try to get out Ouroboros as quickly as possible and then start putting counters on things. Drunith lets you kind of copy creatures. Very powerful if you could, like, I had one game where I tripled Ouroboros out and it just scales with an Innkeeper Talent on level. I had each creature got to 339 counters on it. There's also the Mana Sink in Tyvar. So instead of Craterhoof Behemoth, it's easier to cast. It also can block better in kind of creature mirrors because you can tap to give it indestructible, tap another creature to give it indestructible, and then you can just Mana Sink 5 each time, and it gets plus XX, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control. So then we have the Reanimator deck, just showing because people will ask about this one. It's been pretty stock for the last few weeks. It is dropping week over week as people become more prepared for it. But this deck here is just filling your graveyard, draw, discard, mill, and eventually what you're trying to do is with Kavero, have it come in as a copy of Bringer the Last Gift. It will then reanimate all the cards from your graveyard. This one's like all in on the combo with Terror of the Peaks to just have multiple copies enter, and then have this ping your opponent for each creature that comes into play. So this deck's been pretty much the same kind of concept each week, so we're not going to dive too deep into it. So these ones are from Diamond to Mythic. So we'll take a look at these. So this is the Bant Airbend combo. Twitch streamer Meowtic was playing this in best of 3 and got to #1 Mythic. I have gameplay on my channel if you want to see how the combo works. It's a bit convoluted. It's a multi-card infinite combo, but I'll try to explain it best I can in this context. So how it works, Doc Arlock makes it so cards you have in exile cost 2 less. So when you airbend something, it's in exile, it costs 2, but with Doc Arlock, it becomes 0 mana. You can then loop a combination of Aang as well as Appa targeting each other. With Appa, you can select multiple things, and then these reset each other. So then you could just keep recasting things over and over. Every time you cast something from exile with Appa, you get a 1/1. With Aang, ideally what you're trying to do is Aang, like this big Aang, and then this will eventually dig you deeper into your deck. When you find 2 copies of Aang, what you do is you waterbend one of them with all the tokens you get, and then what you're able to do there is have one Ang bounce your opponent's creature, and then the other, then you have Appa come in and it targets both Angs because they're legend. One's a different name because of the legend rule. You can have both in play. You bring it back, reset. So now you're progressing your board while resetting your opponent's whole board. Ideally, if you have like one untapped land, you can go to the point where Badger Mole just keeps earthbending onto that one creature over and over and over and over again, making it infinitely big, and you attack your opponent for lethal. You also have Bramble Familiar, where if you airbend it, you can cast Fetch Quest for 2 or even 0 mana. Very strong, because then you mill and then try to find cards for the combo. Airbender Ascension is another piece you can use in the loop, where it could replicate the Ang in this case when you're doing the loop of airbending over and over again. Quantum Ruler is a value card to refill your hand. Nature's Rhythm helps you find combo pieces as well. Again, there's a video on my YouTube. I played in best of 3, but you can see the combo in action. There's 3 matches there, so you get a good understanding of the deck itself. 2 or 3 matches, forget it. Very click intensive. Don't play this on mobile. You're going to like crash your phone or iPad. We have 4 color allies, 64%. With these decks here, I always kind of mention like this is very wildcard intensive for a deck that doesn't have cards that extend beyond like the deck itself. While like Ang sees play in other decks, a lot of these cards are going to be very much focused just on this deck here. But Earthen Ally, 1 mana, 0/2 that gets power for based on your other allies and can be a mana sink. Earth Kingdom Protectors is just a protection effect. Earth King's Lieutenant is like Thalia's Lieutenant, but for allies, very strong because it puts it's got naturally trample on it, where Thalia's Lieutenant doesn't. The Great Divide Guide makes all your allies tap for any color. Invasion Reinforcement is timely reinforcements, but for allies. South Pole Voyager, whenever this creature or another ally you control enters, you gain a life. It's the second time you draw a card, so life gain, card draw. Aang kind of resets stuff. Katara doubles up the triggers from your allies. Appa can reset stuff. Hakoda lets you play allies off the top and gives indestructible. Wartime Protester gives haste and a counter, so it makes all your allies much more formidable because they come in and attack right away, and then Aang's Collected Company for the deck. And then lastly, we have Boros Aggro, Boros Firebender's Ascension. This one's at 62%. So kind of built around this card here, Firebender's Ascension cares about attack triggers. So Firebending, Mobilize are the 2 most common. Then if you have 4 counters on it, whenever you attack with a trigger goes on the stack of this. When you have 4 more, you double up those triggers. So you get double Hired Claw triggers of pings, double Stadium Headliner or Voice of Victory Mobilize triggers, double Arabella triggers, double Sanguine triggers. Delny then doubles up those triggers more. You have Suki, which is a Lord. And then when things die, plays nicely with the Mobilize stuff. You're also playing Burst Lightning, Lightning Helix, Sheltered by Ghost as interaction, and then Frontline Rush can either be 2 tokens or a big boost of power to a creature that's perhaps your opponent doesn't block. You kind of surprise, deal them a bunch of damage. That's it for the week. Let me know what you've been playing, what you've been liking, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks for watching.